Hello, welcome to the First Issue Club. We're your weekly comic book podcast where, just like Sue Storm, we love a good read. Oh. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from First Issue Club Santa. I don't want to stay in character, so I'm just going to bail on it right away.
I was hoping you were going to be Holly Jolly Mike D.
Yeah, Matt, there was a time where I would have just stayed in character as Santa an entire episode. Not anymore. Those days are behind me. If I would have had my Space Camper Cosmic IPA prior to starting the episode, maybe.
Oh, man, because you were slipping more and more Jamaican.
Oh, no. And it's a really good thing I bailed on my Santa. Where did that come from?
Yeah, man.
Oh, no.
Santa's here.
I did not intend that, everyone. Good God. Big week for comic fans. We've got a doozy of a trailer that came out today as we are recording this. So we're going to talk about that beat by beat. And we're going to cover some good comic books that we read this week and some that we missed from last week. So we're really excited to all give those a little bit of light. But I mentioned it already. The stuff you need in the upcoming holiday weeks to be able to handle your weird family and all your in-laws.
Yep.
All the stuff that comes with it. An alcoholic beverage. Treat yourself. This is the time of year to kick back and treat yourself. Even if you got to pour it in a flask, my man. You're going over to grandma's. She's a little stuck up. Get a little Space Camper Cosmic IPA in a flask. Just, it might not get you buzzed, but just that taste every once in a while, man. It sends those good vibes and good feelings straight to, whatever cortex deals with that in your brain.
Sure. Yeah.
And makes you feel a little better. I love Space Camper Cosmic IPA. Juice Nova. That's the one that I'm drinking today. Without Space Camper Cosmic IPA and Boulevard Brewing Company, this podcast would not be coming to you today. So thanks so much for making our show possible, keeping us rolling, and providing great drinks for the holidays.
Also, be on the lookout for, what's the cold one? Cold.
Cryonic Crush.
Cryonic Crush. I got Crush. Cryonic Crush. That's the one that I've been drinking most recently.
Heck yeah,
And
blue
it
can.
is- oh, it's so good.
Yep.
Nice and crisp.
Mm.
Crushable is what I would say.
That's right. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay.
I want to talk about this Superman trailer, and I think the best way to do it is, like I said before, beat by beat. So here we go.
Oh, you've got bullet points.
I've written down every little thing that happens in this trailer.
Okay.
All right, so trailer opens.
Uh-huh.
You see Superman slam into an Arctic environment, and he's wheezing. We're assuming he just got his ass kicked, or at least I did.
Uh-huh.
What are your assumptions on where he is?
I mean, it's
You think it's Earth?
Earth.
It's Earth. Okay.
It's Earth. And
All right.
it's the Arctic,
Yep.
where the Fortress of Solitude is.
Yes. So he's close to home base.
That's
After getting his ass kicked, he's maybe retreated
my assumption.
to somewhere safe.
Yeah, he has
But
tried to get
Didn't have
away.
anything in him anymore to make it any further, so he crash lands.
Yes.
Okay. Who is this big bad, you ask? We don't know.
It's impossible to know.
At least not yet. Okay. Then we flash to Clark going down the street, heading to work.
Yes.
He's got a sort of haircut that we normally don't see Clark Kent with. Like,
A lot of curls.
a lot of curls, very bushy and unkept. But he also has this very 80s sort of vibe to him. And I don't know if you picked this up at all, but throughout a handful of the shots, it did feel like a bit timeless in places, or maybe this retro modern that made it feel classically cool. That it was balancing itself between modern comic book movies and kind of like the classic interpretations of characters. Like, I don't know if you picked up on that at all, but that was like a major thing that like in the first couple like shots, I was like, oh, this feels like it could have come from a different era.
It probably felt that way because it was very bright.
You think so?
Like the trailer overall
Yeah.
felt like it was filmed in sunshine,
Uh-huh.
and you don't get that a lot with comic book movies in general.
Yeah. That it feels like it's harkening back to an older time.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the Chris Reeves
Exactly.
Superman movies are during the daylight.
Yeah, like the color palette of
Yeah.
that trailer was very similar to the color palette of Christopher Reeve's Superman movie.
Yeah. Right. Totally. Even the poster itself, I was like, his look and feel evoked Chris Reeve to me. And then even some of the like rainbowy color effects behind him, I was like, we've kind of seen that in some of the older like Superman stuff, which to me like got me in my feels instead of being like, oh, they're doing this again. It was like used appropriately in a way that I felt like really good about.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have a lot of big title cards that they were like James Gunn. That's the first one you see.
Yes.
So saving some context for exactly what we're seeing until this moment in the trailer to discuss. What are your feelings when you see that? Are you like, hell yeah, it's here, the James Gunn stuff? Are you like, man, they're putting his name so forward, like the amount of trust that's been given to him? Like, did that evoke anything for you, or were you just like, yeah, director's name?
I mean, James Gunn as a director is someone that I have enjoyed even before Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go see a James Gunn movie kind of regardless.
Yeah.
I guess it's going to depend on if the guy who's in charge of the studio isn't the guy directing the movie, if they stick with that. Like,
yeah, right.
Like once, whatever, the next thing comes out, Swamp Thing,
yeah,
whatever it is, are we going to get the same treatment where it's
going
like
to be a huge James Gunn?
Well, that's what I don't want is James Gunn presents an Andy Vargas movie, Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like if the intention of this trailer, and I think it is based on what I'm sure is one of your bullet points, the intention of the trailer is to set up not only this movie, but this whole now continuing DC connected universe.
Yeah. We'll get to this, but it seemed like a trailer for 40 movies.
Yes. And it felt like this is a creator forward effort.
Yeah.
As opposed to a DC led, like a branded effort.
This is something that I feel like more so than the Marvel Cinematic Universe or like other popular movie franchises, DC is one where it was like our whole thing was Zack Snyder for a long time. And now it's James Gunn. And the director is like the draw as the visionary. And they kind of like, I think I talked about this the other week, but in Creature Commandos, where they're doing this like animated intro and showing you all the cool characters, and the last animated character they show is James Gunn with a laptop.
Yeah.
Like they are inserting his celebrity and his person so firmly into all this stuff to like get people excited. It's just bizarre to me.
Well, it's
that he's like a mascot for DC.
Yes.
Like the Russo brothers were like never like that for
exactly
for Marvel.
Or like you think about, I mean, Sam Raimi directed the last Doctor Strange movie, and like, I mean, he's whatever. He's a legendary director. If they stick with that same effort throughout this whole thing, and instead of having like the lineup of celebrities like Marvel has to play their characters, if they have like a lineup of celebrity directors, or if they get exciting up and coming directors and raise them up to that same level, that's incredible.
Yeah,
like, that's
right.
going to be so cool.
Yep. But, yeah, it does make me a little nervous that the intention could be, James Gunn, you like Guardians of the Galaxy, remember?
Yeah.
Please come see this. Like, there's a piece of it that feels like that.
For sure.
Okay. Next shot, we see Rachel Brosnahan reveal as Lois.
Yep.
So she played the marvelous Miss Maisel. I thought she looked incredible.
Yeah.
She's wearing like this rad vest that again felt like kind of like 80s timeless classic like look and feel. I love seeing a Lois with a like really dark hair.
Part of the feel of the trailer too is that all the people in it they don't look like Adonises. They kind of look like normal ass people.
I think the like she wasn't like caked in makeup.
Well, she's not fucking Gal Gadot. Like, she's not like.
Yeah.
She looks like.
I mean, she's gorgeous. They presented her as like a more of a real person that you would see like at a news desk.
But she looks like a person that would be working a job.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Even Superman, when he's in his Superman outfit, it's like, oh, that's just a guy in a costume.
Yeah.
Especially when you compare it to the last guy who played Superman, looked like a Superman.
Yeah.
Like Henry Cavill's a god among men. And then you get like kind of a normal dude to play Superman.
Yeah.
Plays into it for sure.
Yep. At this point I kind of like noticed the like music really picking up. And then I don't know what the music was. If it was like
it was the Superman theme.
It was just the Superman theme, but it was
on guitar.
But it was done through like slow electric guitar riffs, and it had like a kind of a cool rock and roll vibe, but a little more of like, I don't know, somber, edgy sort of.
It was very slow.
Yeah.
But it was on electric guitar.
Yeah, it was cool. It was kind of neat. Okay, we see Pa Kent and Clark having an emotional moment. No Ma Kent?
No Ma Kent?
So who knows what happens? I mean, my mind immediately was like, oh, Ma Kent's died. And that's what they're having their like somber moment over.
Maybe.
But
yeah.
Could be anything.
Uh-huh.
Who knows?
James Gunn knows.
We at least have Pa Kent.
True.
All right, we're back in the Arctic. Clark whistles. A blizzard storm starts coming towards him. It turns out it's the trail of Krypto kicking up a bunch of snow. This is like the big moment in the trailer where you're just like, fuck yes. Like the beats of like showing Rachel Brosnahan and like some of the like lifestyle things that happened before this, you're just like, this like has a cool vibe to it. And then you get that and you're like, damn, like we're doing like DC shit here. Yeah. And then it snowballs from there.
Yeah.
But Krypto, what your reactions?
I mean, I love it. It's so James Gunn to include a super dog.
And the shot they get of him, he does such a charming little like leap, like, come on, let's go, let's play. And then licks Clark on the face and he says, Krypto, take me home, and hands him his cape so he could like drag him and fly off with him.
Krypto just drags him off.
I thought it was very charming. The dog they got was super cute, and people are going to be very upset when they kill Krypto in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be rough.
Yeah. We'll see how they handle it in that movie, but we know James Gunn loved that series, and that was like, I think, a lot of his inspiration for whatever that Supergirl movie ends up being.
Yeah.
And the impetus for
that's like the whole thing.
Is Krypto getting shot.
Yeah.
So that'll be brutal to fall in love with that character and then have him shot.
Do you I mean, that leads us to another point. Do you think they're going to introduce a lot of the super family? Since they've introduced Krypto, for God's sake, right?
Yeah, right. It definitely wouldn't seem off the table. That also seems like something that could be left for like a fun sting. As much as I think, let me say this about the movie. Part of my vibe from the trailer was that, and I talked about this with my buddy Chris at work today, that they're kind of doing a reverse Marvel. Like, we're sick of all the like the tropes of like big team up against the big bad at the end, and then everything is like fixed, and then this slow roll of like building towards this big moment and unveiling characters after they've all had their like due moment. There's like certainly a formula for it now, and I think my vibe from this trailer is James Gunn was like, we need something fresh. We just need to do like the complete opposite of what Marvel does and like separate ourselves from that. And they're doing it by just like throwing fucking the kitchen sink at you.
Yeah.
And I still think it would be fun to have those like stinger moments at like the end of trailers.
Definitely.
And those are things that like I think haven't gone stale. Like people love when those hit and everyone's buzzing and talking about like, oh my God, like so and so is going to be a character, or this storyline is going to get its due. And I could see this whole movie playing out, and then like some of the super family shows up in a post-credit scene.
Definitely, yeah.
But it's not treated like the way Marvel would do it would be like, who is this other Kryptonian?
Yeah.
And the way
a door would open and it'd be somebody in silhouette.
Yeah, exactly right. The way this one is gonna happen is Kara's gonna walk into Clark's apartment and he's gonna be like, "Hey, Kara."
Yeah. and then they'll both fly away.
And then they both fly away, or they'll like be playing catch like a mile away from each other with like baseball gloves on, or like something like fun and cheeky like that.
Yeah.
Like, but
and then Power Girl flies in.
I mean,
Superboy.
I got chills just like you saying that. Like if they introduce Power Girl during this, I think it would be so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I also think there's like, I was kind of wondering before this trailer came out, and now we're like away from beat by beat, but if they were going to try to eat Secret Wars lunch by being like, we're just going to cannonball right into Heroes in Crisis, or Crisis on Infinite Earths, I guess. But I
think that'd be way too much for people.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to do that.
It does seem like
in a sense they're giving you like a whole like universe with this like tentpole movie.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it does, we'll keep going beat by beat. You'll get to it.
All right. So, yeah, we got our crypto scene. And then we start getting like really quick flashes of highlights. We see a big kaiju foot.
Yep.
And Superman swoops in and like it goes slow-mo and he saves this girl's life.
Very Superman.
Yeah. Like that big foot, that moment, I'm like, what? Like what is this just gonna be like a kaiju movie but with like Superman? And the nuts thing about it is with the rapidness of all these crazy chaos things that are happening, you're just like, there's so many scenarios where in a Marvel movie might be like, this is the entire movie, that DC's just like, James Gunn's DC is much more like, this is everyday shit for Superman.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Like Wednesday there's going to be a kaiju, Saturday there's going to be like whatever else.
Yeah. Lex Luthor's got a Kryptonian bullet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Lex, the next shot is we see a Luthor Corp building. The building looks cool. I like a lot of like the architectural design, and some of the shots we've seen in like previous trailers of the Daily Planet building looks fantastic.
Well, they're very like brutalist in 80s.
Yeah. Totally. But okay, so Lex Luthor looks like a skinny, bald James Bond. He's got this like long, petite pistol, which again is like, this is maybe another James Gunn thing, but he makes so many strong visual choices that are like bold and sometimes cartoony. And I personally really like that. I know that's not like everybody's style, and some people want everything in this to be like gritty and believable, but all these like tiny aesthetic choices that are getting shoved in my face during this, I'm like, yes, a breath of fresh air.
Totally.
Okay. He's played by the guy who played Beast.
Yeah, Nicholas Holt. Is that right?
Let me see.
Nicholas something.
Holt.
Holt. Okay, yeah.
I don't know too much about him, but
he's an actor. He played Beast, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Looks good. Luthor looks
Yep.
bad and evil, just
Yep.
like Luthor.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
We hear a child whisper, Superman? And then we go to a kid in a village, like that the village is being attacked, and he raises up this little like flag.
Yeah.
And is like, Superman. And you hear him go, Superman again, with the assumption being, I've got my little Superman flag up. Like, Superman can zip around the world and easily see that's the place where someone needs help.
Yeah.
Like, we've set up the idea already that he's like the world. He's not just America's savior or Metropolis's savior. This is grand scale DC, where he hears a little kid cry for help, and he's going to the Middle East
Yeah.
to like kick some ass and head back for lunch.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Yeah, I like that we got that pepper in it too.
Yeah.
Okay. Clark takes a can to the head.
Yes.
So something's happened where like popular opinion of him has changed or shifted for some reason.
Or at least, I mean, obviously you use shorthands like that in trailers to get, yes. There is at least a contingent of people
Yeah, it
that
might not be everybody.
That are not happy
It
with
might just be like, no, aliens go home.
for some reason, that particular group of people is unhappy with Superman at that moment.
We do see, like, in the kaiju scene, we do see, like, a whole building fall. So this could be one of those things where it's like, you're supposed to be our God and Savior, and you failed us, and a bunch of people died.
Why did you protect that building and not my building?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. During that scene, he enters a Stag Industries building, which is, what's that guy's name?
I don't know.
Simon Stagg. Simon Stagg is a character in DC Universe that owns this like big research enterprise and is kind of like an evil CEO type.
Oh, like
His daughter dates Metamorpho,
Okay.
and like they're kind of like a problem.
And,
I don't have.
Metamorpho is the villain of the movie.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's that wrinkly faced guy you're going to talk about in a second.
That was Metamorpho.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't either. I had to look it up. It was like,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's why we've got Simon Stagg and Stagg Enterprises in this, is because of the Metamorpho
Checks.
tie. He's close to, and the way they're probably going to do this in this movie is like Stagg has like maybe created Metamorpho via their like unsafe research practices or something like that.
Sure.
I would imagine.
Superman's blood
Okay.
turns into Metamorpho.
Okay, before we get to him, then Nathan Fillion comes out as Guy Gardner.
Hold on. That's how you're going to say it?
Well,
The best scene in the movie?
I know this was like after Crypto. This was like the next like oh fuck moment.
Yeah.
like
You wouldn't let
Like-
me make this entire episode about Nathan Fillion's haircut, but this whole episode could be about Nathan Fillion's
I
haircut.
absolutely loved that decision. I probably said out loud, yes, they did it when I was watching this.
Everybody.
I don't know, like, did people already know that one, Guy Gardner was going to be in this, two, that Nathan Fillion was going to play him?
Yes and yes.
Okay, because I didn't.
Yeah.
And so that moment, at first I think I messaged you guys. It flashed so quick, I thought it was David Dasmalchian, who
Yeah.
plays, like, he's one of the, he's been a DC Universe guy before.
He was Polka Dot Man.
Yes, he was Polka Dot Man. And I like him a lot, but I thought it was him, and then figuring out it's Nathan Fillion. I mean, I love both of them, but I mean, Nathan Fillion, come on.
Yeah.
He's like nerd guy's dream man.
I so badly want to know anyone who's a normie watching this trailer.
Yeah. What
and
your
being
reaction
like,
to that is?
Why is Firefly in a bowl cut?
Yeah.
like I just want to see.
I think there are so many things like, yeah, you wonder like where the demographic that is like immediately catching all the little Easter eggs and the little things that they're doing. And I don't like, I see that bowl cut and I'm immediately like, oh my God, he's Guy Gardner.
Yeah.
And like, that works for me, but I'm not most people.
Exactly.
And for this movie to like make $1 billion, people who aren't familiar with Guy Gardner are going to have to go see it and like find it charming. And
people that aren't familiar with Guy Gardner are going to be like, oh, look, it's Castle. And then he's going to be the biggest asshole in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be Guy Gardner.
Yeah, I think this is a thing that, like, you hope James Gunn tonally pulls all this off and it's really fun. But you could also fall into the trap that, again, a lot of Marvel movies fall into, where it's just like the barrier for entry is so high just because, like, I don't know who any of these people are, but just like, I mean, we used to give advice to people all the time early on in the podcast when we were battling with, like, well, we want to cover first issues and make this like an accessible reading club and that's like welcomes new readers into the medium. But how do you do that when a first issue like is already inaccessible?
Yeah.
Like, it just relies on 20 years of back knowledge that sometimes in order to enjoy an event, you just have to like cannonball in and take some things with a grain of salt.
Totally.
That, like, I know this guy's good. I know this guy is like, but has a bad attitude. And I know that's the bad guy and that he doesn't like this guy and they have some history, and I'll take it for what it's worth and just try to like enjoy the dynamic and the aesthetic piece of it. Like, and I think that's where James Gunn is already doing a good job with just like how many hard aesthetic choices I'm seeing in this that just make it fun to look at.
Yep.
Regardless of whether you know who Guy Gardner is, just like the hair choice and Nathan Fillion being that guy is so much fun.
And it's our job, dear listener, as comic book fans, to assure the normies that yes, he will get his face punched by Batman at some point.
Yeah.
Like, if they do that haircut, he's getting punched, right?
Right. Okay. Guy Gardner uses his Green Lantern ring. I don't know if we've mentioned this yet, but he's full-blown Green Lantern at this point. He's not like Guy Gardner pre-powers or anything.
Yeah.
So he uses his ring to kind of keep that mob at bay, or to like create a shell so they can like have a conversation that's like not diluted by people being like, fuck you, Clark, or Superman. They don't know it's Clark. Okay. Right after that scene, we see Hawk Girl with her signature massive bludgeon.
Yeah.
And that's another like comics accurate thing that I was just like, hell yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of like, as much as I was like, yeah, like the Marvel movies initially were like, I need to be eased into this to like believe Thor is the guy with a hammer, and they do a good job at that. But we live in a world now wherein we're familiar with superhero stuff, right? So I do believe we need to look at and think back on the MCU as like it made all the right choices that it needed to make at the time for the world we were in.
Totally.
And those choices don't work anymore in the world we're in, and some of these like more cartoony decisions are what's going to work in movies.
Yeah, people can swallow weirder stuff now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seeing Hawk Girl fly around a city
so cool
was also really cool. Like that we're not putting her in like what the last DC movie that used her. She was in like Egypt and
was that Black Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah. With the Justice Society.
Yes. Yeah. And it was kind of like these are characters that work in like only in an African mythos. And I just love like plucking those characters and like putting them in like a cityscape.
Yeah.
Just kind of, again, reinforces how big of a world and universe we're within, and that all these people are global superheroes. On a scale that, like, this is another thing that's crazy. After, 20 years of the MCU, we still, like, when they do movies, it's still not just like, Spider-Man swinging by.
Yeah.
There goes the Punisher. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this movie seems like it's going to be like that. Like, we've accepted, like, there's superheroes everywhere.
Yeah.
And if there's, like, an extinction level event that you're just like, why isn't Captain America here helping?
Right.
Like, these DC, like, like, these DC movies aren't going to be like that.
Yeah. There's an alien invasion. Thor needs to be here.
The Justice League getting together is going to be on the table for like all of these movies. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we've got Godzilla breathing fire, I think, at her.
Sure.
Or maybe Superman as she's like flying into a building. And that's when we see like the building topple over. Yeah. But that was like just fun seeing just like a massive Godzilla thing.
Totally.
I don't know.
I'm always down for a giant monster.
Did you recognize the giant monster as anything in particular? Because I didn't.
I did not read it as a particular DC villain.
Okay.
But I'm sure someone.
It's a reference
out
to
there,
something. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Fin Fang Foom. How about that?
Crossover. Amalgam is happening. Old Marvel DC crossover event. That was very fun. We get a handful of Clark and Lois romance scenes at this point. And I like that these are very like slice of life. I saw an article that was like, there's some of the little slice of life moments are very casual in a way that, again, just like your point about Lois seeming like a real person in the way that they're like doing her character design and makeup and costuming, that like some of the ways they're just like showing like Clark pull up his boots and fit them on, and being in like a Midwest kitchen making out with Lois, and some of those like little scenes just make it feel a little more like hey, these are real people, while also simultaneously being like all this like larger than life stuff is happening around them.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting balance to like keep track of. There's some like crazy light thing that's happening above the city during like one of their kissing scenes.
I missed that.
And I don't know exactly like what that is or what it's an allusion to, but it must not be an emergency because they're making out in the Daily Planet at night. Okay, Superman grieves the loss of a robot who we can assume is Kellex, I would think.
Sure, that makes sense. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it kind of looks like one of those Medbot robots from Star Wars. So when I think Kellex, I think like the gold robot with the like elongated head, and it looked way more humanoid.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking like Red Tornado, but it clearly was not Red Tornado.
Yeah, right. So we'll see. We play a little bit with like the next scene is like the Fortress of Solitude crystals growing.
Yeah.
You never see a Fortress of Solitude in this, but again, you see the Arctic like Andy mentioned earlier, and then you see these crystals growing, which is like, as
presumably it's growing.
Superman fans, you just assume it's growing the fortress. So that scene in context and the emotional attachment to a robot, like I think this leads us to believe that like, again, Superman's been doing this for a long time. He's already got a Fortress of Solitude.
Right.
He's established a relationship with Kellex, and then the fortress gets attacked. It's one of those things too where it's just like he doesn't have a lot from his home planet, and Kellex is kind of like a proxy family member, as like some sort of like humanoid presenting thing that talks to him.
Right.
So it feels like that's like one of his only people that.
Yeah, it's like a cousin or something.
Like, yeah, exactly right. So I think that emotional attachment, it's got to be Kellex.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we see Metamorpho.
Yes.
And in this scene, you're definitely like, this is a bad guy. I had no idea that was Metamorpho, though.
Yeah. I had to look it up.
Did you? Okay. There's nothing that, like, I wish they would have... we only see his face.
Correct.
And this is a character that is certainly one of the most, if not the cartooniest character in the DC universe. I mean,
other than Mr. Mixelplex, right? Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Metamorpho is, he's a character who has like, he's made of different elements.
Yeah, he's like kind of, I don't. He can,
isn't
like,
that right?
Kind of do anything, right? Like, but he can like, he's kind of like the Absorbing Man too, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Marvel, where he can like take people's powers. So right, because
I don't have my head totally wrapped around Metamorpho.
He's like kind of like a Mazo,
yeah,
right, where he can adopt powers.
I think so.
I think,
yeah.
DC fans, correct us.
Yeah. Sorry, pre-apologies for that take. But in any case, I wish we saw more of him, but that'll be a fun reveal
Yeah.
on what exactly he ends up looking like. We see Superman getting his ass kicked for a few scenes, all around Metropolis, and then we get our Mr. Terrific reveal.
Yeah.
And I mean, for us as comic book fans, this is like such a deep cut character, I think, that you would just like never expect to be in a movie. I know some like some footage or like some like camera shots leaked that on set where you got to see Mr. Terrific in the jacket, his famous jacket, and all this stuff. So, smartest person in the DC universe, if not one of the.
And such a badass scene too. He's got like robots that are projecting like a shield around him.
Yep.
And dudes are firing machine guns from all angles.
Yep.
And he's just standing
there in the middle. I think with Clark.
Yeah.
And which again kind of like scores his intelligence in that scene of just having like a bunch of technology and being prepared for anything. So,
and God, I want that Fair Play jacket.
I know. Imagine if they sold that thing. I don't know how much.
I mean, they will, but it'll be $400.
It'll be a lot of money if it's all leather and real. And then I lost my place.
Mr. Terrific.
I think that's it. From here on out, we get like some like a couple more slice of life scenes and a little more like Arctic stuff, but like nothing else like super notable.
The thing that I will point out is there's a specific title sequence where it says something like, "This is the beginning," or "It's here," and then there's a big DC Studios logo.
Yeah.
So like we said before, they're not only saying that James Gunn is here and this movie is here and the trailer is here, but that this is like a whole new direction for DC movies in general.
Yep.
We're done with the Snyderverse. It's dead and buried. And now we get Superman in the daylight.
Let's say this movie, like worst case scenario, this movie just like underperforms.
Sure.
People aren't enamored with it. It plays like Black Adam played.
Okay.
Is DC so committed to James Gunn at this point that we get at least like another 5 movies out of it?
Definitely.
You think so?
Definitely.
They're just like way too invested at this point.
I think James,
there's like no pushing the eject button.
I mean, James Gunn's level of involvement could vary.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're committed.
They're moving forward.
And
with
I
this.
think given the success of Suicide Squad and Peacemaker alone, they're going to give him at least, I mean, season 2 Peacemaker is confirmed. Creature Commandos is doing well.
Yep.
They're going to give him the leeway of one failure. Now, I don't think James Gunn could direct a bad Superman movie.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't see it.
There's going to be people who don't like it. There's going to be people who love it.
Yeah, I can't wait to shit on it. No, I think it'll be... I mean, even for the people that don't like it...
It's hard to make everybody happy, especially with something like this, but you would think general consensus is that people are going to be stoked on it just because it's new and different.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people would see it regardless. But I don't know, the conversation surrounding like how much they've invested in this new effort and that like it came on the heels of them just being like, let's do a new Batman thing. And then, hey, now we're doing an entire new universe. Yeah. This is also a confusing aspect of this because not only did they do a new Batman movie that like did okay, and you've got a great actor in Robert Pattinson. When I say did okay, I don't think like this movie like completely rocked the box office or anything, but like
the Batman, it did really well.
It did well enough to be like, yeah, we're making sequels of this and people dig it. But the spinoff was one of the biggest comic book moments of 2024.
Yeah, for sure.
And so DC's really got to be like, well, we're not abandoning this. Like everyone's talking about how much they love the Penguin, and that's like a huge part of our Batman universe. So like you're all in on this thing, which is also like it's alongside the other DC stuff. Like
it's Elseworlds.
Yes, it's not James Gunn's Batman.
Correct.
which will be interesting if they just like avoid Batman for a long time because there's
I would
this
love that.
other thing happening.
Yeah.
And in avoiding Batman, you spend more time with Mr. Terrific. Like Mr. Terrific is very much like ultra powered, super wealthy, like intellectual.
Yeah.
That I don't know, can kind of do a lot of the stuff Batman can do, but without the like bat outfit.
Or fucking make a Robin movie. Make a Nightwing movie. Make a Batgirl movie. Oh, wait. They fucking did and deleted it.
Yeah, that sucks. I forgot about that.
I mean, there's tons of stuff you can do without having Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yep.
Give me a Damian movie.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Because you could make it without Bruce Wayne and it would be really interesting.
I guess you could create a universe wherein Bruce Wayne has died, but then you get like the whole Bat family.
Yeah, pre-kill him.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Do it.
Yep.
James, call me.
Doomsday's already happened.
Yeah. I'll write your Damian
and
movie.
Batman was killed in that.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. Okay.
I'll work with Grant Morrison.
Let's do 2 other quick news things.
Okay.
If we're done with Superman. I know we only spent 40 minutes on it?
Talking about a 2-minute trailer. That's the classic podcast experience right there.
Right, yeah. All right, 2 really quick things. Jim Lee says he's got bigger news than Hush 2 on the horizon for 2025.
Oh, okay.
We don't know what that means.
Hush 3.
Hush 3 is coming immediately after. Can you believe it? I don't know if that means just for him or for DC at large, because he's like some sort of CEO type.
He's the CCO.
CCO, Chief Creative Officer.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's the tippy top of DC Comics.
And he's known for being a very humble guy.
Yeah.
And so the reaction to this is people being like, oh shit, something must really be happening if
he's going to Marvel.
Jim Lee is. That's his big thing.
Just
yeah.
Batman Hush 2 ends with Bruce Wayne dying.
Yeah. And then Spider-Man #1 is popping up on people's radars. It's coming up for pre-order soon. We're resetting the issue count for the first time since like 2022 maybe. It's been at least I think it's been 2 years.
I mean,
because we're all the way
issues or something.
Yeah, we're up in like the 70s or low 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
And we're getting ever closer to that 1,000 issue. I think it'll be the first Marvel comic to like actually hit 1,000.
Yeah.
If you don't count those like stupid Amazing Fantasy 1,000 things that they like cheated on. Joe Kelly is writing it.
Classic writer.
You're going to have John Romita Jr., which I love.
Yeah.
I've fallen back in love with his work. I think there was a time where he like wasn't working a ton in comics, and you're like, his style looks like dated and out of practice, but he's been doing a lot of Zeb Wells Spider-Man stuff, and I love it.
When I saw when he did Tombstone for Spider-Man,
yeah.
It's like, that's a perfect Tombstone.
Yes, 100%. I agree with that. And then Pepe Larraz is going to do some work as well. And this is one of those things where like in ASM or mainline Spider-Man stories, every once in a while they'd kind of switch around between.
Sure.
Because I think it's just like a lot to ask John Romita Jr. to do like what's almost like a bi-weekly comic sometimes.
Yeah. Because he's doing covers too, right?
Yeah, he's doing covers too.
Crazy.
I think this is interesting. I think, you assume Joe Kelly is going to write the 1,000th issue or the main story in the 1,000th issue.
Or do they bring Dan Slott back in?
Or does Dan Slott write that like one issue? I think this is like Spider-Man is one of those books at this point that is like kind of like a thankless job. Like Zeb Wells is getting like so much heat, and I don't think his Spider-Man run is that bad. And like people are like, I read an article today that was like, Spider-Man's been absolutely poisoned. But Zeb Wells been poisoned to Spider-Man, and it's like, not really.
Shut up.
Like
Zeb Wells rules.
Yeah, I like Zeb Wells a lot, and I think his writing style and his humor like lends itself well to Spider-Man. And then I mean the same thing, like Nick Spencer did like a run that was like almost 100 issues.
Yeah.
And
That was
in-
awesome too.
and any other thing that would be like super celebrated, and he did like wild stuff with Harry Osborn and Sin Eater, and
Dude, that Hunted.
yeah, the Hunted
arc
event was
was
really
so
fun. And people really ragged on Nick Spencer, and there were times I did too where I got like a little lost in like Nick Spencer was like such a Spider-Man fan
Yeah.
that he was pulling out all the like little obscure characters and hanging threads. So like canonically, it's like one of the most amazing like 100-issue runs of
Yeah.
Spider-Man, but it was a little less accessible even for me, who's like a
Well,
huge Spider-Man
Nick
fan.
Spencer is to Spider-Man what Grant Morrison was to Batman,
Sure.
where he's just
Yeah.
like, hey, you remember that
Yeah.
thing that happened in that one issue
Yep.
in 1942?
Mhm.
No one does, Grant, because you didn't. You're the only one that read it.
I'm gonna reference it like we all like have that knowledge. Yeah. So I don't know. Dan Slott now is like talked about in high regard, but there was a time when like everyone fucking hated
Yeah.
Dan Slott,
Yeah.
and people were pissed about Brand New Day, and people were pissed about Superior Spider-Man when that started, and now those are like classics. So my advice would be go easy on Zeb, go easy on Nick, and go easy on Joe.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
for
keep in mind,
whatever happens here.
like, I think the best thing to look at is Nick Spencer also wrote the Captain America run where he was a Hydra agent.
Yes, yeah.
And people flipped the fuck out when that happened.
Yeah.
And then guess what? It all worked out in the end.
Yeah,
and now we're all like, hey, remember Hydra Cap? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was
actually.
cool. It's like an iconic moment for
Yeah.
the character.
Assholes.
People are, yeah. Great creators aren't going to want to write great tentpole characters if all we do as a community is like never give them the benefit of the doubt and just like constantly shit on their work. Like,
Yeah.
fuck off with that stuff. Okay, let's get into comic books. That's my tirade.
Oh, we ran out of time. Yeah. Let's get into it.
What time are we at? We're almost at 50 minutes. We can do a quickie version of this. We can just do our favorites, whatever you're comfortable with.
I've got at least, well, I've got 3 or 4 that I want to talk about. But
Okay.
the one that we both read
Yes.
that we absolutely need to talk about is Ram V's New Gods.
Yes.
And I want to show off this sick acetate cover for
Yeah.
people watching the video.
That rules.
This is by, I had it, hang on, Evan Cagle. Never heard of him before, but
Gorgeous cover.
cannot recommend this enough. It's expensive, it's a $10 issue, but I could not leave the store without this.
Yeah.
So Mike D and I talked about this before the show.
Yep.
And the first,
I like the comp you made.
oh yeah, I compared it to
Gillen's
Karen Gillan's Eternals,
Eternals.
because the first like 8
You're-
pages of this was like,
Yeah. You're like killer. A writer I love is revisiting something that like has always kind of been hard to wrap my head around.
yeah,
And then you open up this new starting point and you're like, this is so hard
this
to wrap
is
my
why I
head
don't
around.
read New Gods. Like I literally opened it and I was like,
Yeah.
this is trash. I hate this. I'm not like, I felt like I wasn't smart enough for it.
Yeah.
But also that it was like speaking down to me.
Yeah. Stick around, everybody.
Yeah, but then
This isn't the ending sentiment.
but
I had the exact same feeling where I was like, oh no.
then you kind of get to, I don't know, the you get a little bit of an action sequence
Yep.
with Orion,
Mhm.
which is good.
Yep.
It felt a little bit different
Yep.
than the preceding pages, and then you finally get to what the story is.
Yep.
And it clicks. It all makes sense.
Yes. Past the history piece.
Yeah.
If you want me to kind of give like a quick synopsis.
Yeah, because I could not tell you what those first 8 pages were about.
So, in DC All In, right? This is the era of DC that we're in that spun out the Absolute Universe.
Uh-huh.
And if you read the books that triggered the events of the Absolute Universe, you would know that Darkseid is kind of propelled into this new universe. and is like more or less the god of it, right? Which has left a massive power vacuum in the DC universe.
Sure.
Or our like our universe proper.
Sure. Earth
Um,
1.
Earth 1. The way New Gods kind of works, or like your Jack Kirby stuff, was that you had Darkseid, who's like a god that's like all evil.
Uh-huh.
And then you have your what's his actual name? I never remember it. But he's like the
High Father.
the High Father is like the god of all that's good.
Yeah, he's Odin.
Yeah, he's like an Odin type. Exactly right. So since Darkseid got zapped into this other universe, all his parademons, which are like his little
minions.
evil minions, are like going buck fucking wild.
Okay.
And causing chaos all over the place and a lot of unrest throughout the universe. And people are like, how are we going to handle this? Like, yeah, Darkseid was pure evil, but he was at least keeping like certain things in check. Like there was a balance to the good and the evil.
Sure.
And I think we're kind of getting the idea that like in his absence, I was just going to try to give this a quick synopsis, and now it's turning into a really long one. I think in his absence, we're being teased maybe one of two things. That the High Father, no longer balanced by pure evil and pure good, is starting to become evil.
That is how I read it.
Yeah, that's how you read it too?
Yeah.
Okay. And so he's starting to make some like delusional comments, and maybe this is what we're supposed to believe, and that's not actually happening.
And then it's a flip-flop. Okay,
Yes. Because what the High Father does is he pulls Orion from that action scene that you were talking about, where he's just like pummeling parademons, and says, hey, I need you for an important mission. Another god has been born on Earth, and I need you to kill it.
Yeah, but it's kid.
It's a child. It's like when we say child, like a 1 or 2 year old.
Yeah.
So, another where my conspiracy brain is going with this is that does the High Father believe that a new god has been born to replace Darkseid, and part of your mission now is to continuously kill these new gods that have arisen because we want to prevent them from ultimately becoming pure evil incarnate? So that's one thing that might be happening. In any case, the story that we get to that is like the fuck yeah moment, like now I'm on board and I understand what this book is past all of the like understanding who the new gods are and what they're doing and what their relationships are. And like, let's say like you skipped the impetus issue for the Absolute universe,
which I did.
You would have completely no context for the lead into this issue or why there's a power vacuum in like New Gods space. So the High Father orders Orion to kill that kid. Orion, thinking better of that, goes to Mr. Miracle, who was introduced during New Gods. Is that correct?
Yeah.
He's like of the New Gods.
Yes. He's Orion's brother.
Is that right?
They were raised as brothers.
I missed that.
Yeah.
And then I think
because there was Orion is technically Darkseid's son.
Yes.
And Mr. Miracle is the High Father's son. They were swapped at birth.
Okay.
Mr. Miracle was raised on Apocalypse,
Yep.
and Orion was raised on New Heaven or Eden or whatever it is.
God, yeah, what is that called?
I don't know.
This is exactly what we're talking about with like how hard it is to
But
like, follow some of this stuff.
they were flippy flopped, like it was like a cultural exchange program.
Yes, right. So yeah, if you don't know what Mr. Miracle's deal is, he's ultimately like the world's best escape artist.
Yeah, he's like the god of escaping.
Yeah, his superpower is that he can get out of any situation.
Yeah.
So Orion goes to him first and says, "Hey, the High Father has ordered me to kill a child. I'm very conflicted by it. I can't disobey the High Father and do anything that would, lead anyone to believe I was treasonous.
Yeah.
The only reasonable out I would have that would not tip off my treason is if you intervened, because you're maybe one of the only people on Earth who could elude me."
Yeah.
being the amazing artist of escape that you are, it would be believable if I said, hey, you have 7 days of lead time to find this kid, hide him from me so I can never find him, and then go back and be like, I tried, but hey,
scot-free.
Yeah, your other son intervened, and like, but all is kumbaya between me and my world, and I'm not like exiled now. So they kind of make this agreement that like this is maybe one of the only ways forward for Orion to not only like stay in good graces with the High Father, but maybe be a man on the inside to ultimately figure out what the deal is here and get to that stuff. And then we see the kid being kidnapped in an action scene and some wild stuff happening, and like that's the book that we're going to ultimately end up getting, is this like action protect this child who has like newborn powers and is like a crazy powerful god.
Do you want to know what I think's going to happen?
Tell me.
I think the High Father's going to end up being the new Darkseid. And the kid is, you know what I mean? I think it's
ultimately like the new High Father, all good god. Yeah.
So I think
interesting.
I think eventually all the new gods will start gravitating toward
this child
and teaching it how to be a good new god.
Yep.
While at the same time,
in doing so, they're poisoning themselves to the High Father, and he starts to turn.
Exactly.
That's an interesting
And he turns
angle.
into the new Darkseid.
Well, if we know anything, Ram V's an incredible writer who tells like really good personal stories, even when it's like a big grand idea.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with Kieran Gillen. That's why he was given a book like Eternals or a book like Immortal X-Men and knocked those out of the fucking park. But again, like they're steeped in so much lore that they can be a little bit of homework to follow.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of history lessons that you're missing out on. Yeah. But, I mean, ultimately, Mr. Miracle is an awesome character. Yeah. Tom King's run is, like, second to none. I think this book's going to be interesting, to say the least.
And we're at least getting a little bit of Barda.
Yeah, I mean, she's married to
Mr. Miracle,
and they have a kid together.
They have a young kid together. At first, I think you're kind of led to believe that the kid that needs to be killed is their child.
Right.
So it's like Orion killing his nephew, but that was kind of like a red herring.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah. But I think it's cool that even though we've got Barda in Birds of Prey right now, like she belongs in all the new God stuff, and I hope that we see her throughout this series a little bit.
I'm sure she will.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll show up. Yeah. It's a cool book. Don't go into it though if you want something nice and light you can like kind of, dip your toe into. This is you're up to your neck for sure.
I agree with that.
But it's good.
Yeah. I want to encourage people to read it, but like also at the same time say like be ready, understand if you're that person who's willing to put the work in to like enjoy this, because if you're not gonna ultimately enjoy like getting on the DC database and like reading up on who exactly is this, like if that's your kink, this is awesome. This is like a great
you already had this
like,
ordered.
Like here's my entry point into this thing, and I can do some research and become like a DC realhead. Like this is a great book to like open your eyes to that and find the things to Google.
This is a great book for you and I to do on
maybe like a recap
subsequent
show.
Issue club.
Yeah, sure. I'd be down for that.
Keep up with this.
Yeah.
And we'll
continually explain it to people.
And explain it to each other, right?
Yeah, right.
For sure. New Gods, obviously book of the week.
Yep.
The other big one that I wanted to talk about was this new Brian Azzarello book, and I always want to say Lana Del Rey, but it's Vanessa Del Rey.
Oh, yeah.
It's out on Boom. It's called The Creeping Below. I think it came out last week, but because of all the Diamond weirdness, I just got it this week.
Late.
So this is, I think it's going to end up being a Swamp Thing book, but with a black metal, Hail Satan, pagan twist.
Okay.
So our main character is in Oslo, Norway. She's a photographer.
Okay, have I read this already?
I don't know.
This might be a second print.
Oh, I mean, I guess maybe.
Let me flip through it.
Okay.
Continue speaking on it.
Our main character is in Oslo, Norway, and she's a photographer. She is a food photographer, but she's interested in the black metal scene.
Yeah.
And we get a whole bunch of cool scenes of bands playing and all this stuff, and she's kind of like ostracized by the guys that are too cool, in their black metal scene, whatever. But she eventually endears herself to some of the guys in the scene, and they take her out into the forest.
Yeah.
And they're talking to her about, these old Norwegian woods and how, ancient and primeval they are.
Isn't it good, Norwegian wood?
Yeah. And then, of course, since they're black metal guys and they're assholes, they sacrifice her.
Yeah.
To ostensibly either Satan or their pagan deities.
Yep.
Um,
and they're kind of just being shitheads.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's all real and it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she comes back from the dead as
some sort of plant goddess thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. This book came out a couple months ago.
Seriously?
Yes. Yeah.
Clint's just had it on the shelf.
Yeah. I read this a couple months ago, and I think it's I think this must be a second print. I'm starting to see more of black and white line work stuff on second print issues.
Interesting.
Too.
Well, it fucking ripped.
Yeah.
I loved this book.
Yeah, it was good. That's totally up your alley with stuff you like.
Yeah, it's creepy Satan, black metal. It hit all the things for me. And I had no idea why I didn't hear about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely one and it's only a 5-issue. It says on the inner cover. So,
yep.
Brian Azzarello too, right? You can't go wrong. So absolutely loved that.
Nice.
Another one, I think this is from last week, but I read the Ultimate Universe 1 year in one shot. We get our introduction to Ultimate Nick Fury, who's the leader of Hand.
Oh, okay.
And we get a little bit of background about what Hand does, and they're kind of they are the organization that was responsible for killing all the superheroes, right? Yeah. And we get that explanation. Nick Fury has spent the last 60 years literally killing or knocking, killing superheroes or making them so that they don't have their power.
Yeah.
And
he was set on the wrong course by the Maker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's working for the Maker, and now this is what he does. And he gathers the council of the Ultimate Universe and, was explaining them all this stuff, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you find out at the end that it's actually an LMD, and this is a 1 year cycle. Every year, a new Nick Fury LMD comes out.
Okay.
And he gets a brain scan, so he has all these memories, and then at the end of the year he's like, I can't do this anymore,
and then he gets purged
every year. So
that's fun.
Very fun. It's a cool book. I kind of fell off the Ultimate Universe just because I can't afford to keep reading all these comic books.
It's a lot of stuff. I just do Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Spider-Man because I love those two, but I completely bailed on pre-ordering any of the other ones.
I'm definitely going to come back and start reading.
I didn't have this book on pre-order.
Well, this is worth a pickup for sure. Yeah. It's a cool book.
I love the cover is really cool, and it's doing that Bond Steranko kind of classic.
I'm a kind of a sucker for Nick Fury, but this is a book I'm at least going to go back and read Ultimates on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, that's a great call.
Because there's a lot of cool references to stuff that's happened.
Yep.
Between Hulk and the Ultimates.
Yep.
In here. So
all right, cool.
Yeah, it's a cool book. If you, like me, kind of fell off the Ultimate Universe, this is, I guess, not a good jumping in point. But it is. I mean, it is a good jumping in point.
If you're at least familiar with the impetus for the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
Then it's maybe a good gateway back in.
It's a great catching up point, for sure. This one, I know for sure, is new this week. It's the new EC book, Shiver Suspend Stories.
Shout out to Oni Press for resurrecting all these rad EC books.
God, I'm so jazzed about it. This is, spoiler alert, definitely going to be on my best of 2024.
Hey,
all the EC books coming back. So this is another classic EC thriller and chiller anthology, but with a Christmas twist to them. So you get a framing story by Hunter Gorson. Jason Aaron writes a story. Ben H. Winters, Jay Stevens, George Northey, and then we get a reprint of a Vault of Horror story in the back. So, I mean, it's just fun stuff, right? The framing story, a woman is telling her kids about how Santa is like a home invader and like maybe a vampire. And then at the end, it turns out she just wanted to kill her husband who was dressing up as Santa and trying to justify it to her kids. But in a double twist, she actually kills the real Santa and then her husband.
Oh my God. Fun.
So, I mean, it's great stuff. You know exactly what you're going to get. The Jason Aaron story is probably the highlight, but all of them in here are really worth picking up.
Hell yeah.
If you're a sucker like I am. It is a little expensive. It's $7.99.
Yeah, it's a really big book.
But yeah, it's thick. It's totally worth it. It's a great one of those, like, you're sitting on the couch at your parents' house, and as my dad would say, you're just staring at each other.
Yeah.
Like, go buy this, don't read it, save it for that moment when you can like read it 2 or 3 pages at a time and get that story.
Yeah.
It's the perfect book for that.
Right on.
And then the last book I read, we talked about this at least a little bit.
Yeah, we gave it a shout out.
I read Laura Kinney Wolverine by friend of the show,
Erica
Schultz.
Yep.
And this actually reminded me a lot of how you described Psylocke.
Yes, which was an episode lost to time.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. What a bummer.
We had a bum recording, and I gave a tirade on. I loved the Psylocke book.
Yeah, well, this is going to be right up your alley. I'm sure you pre-ordered this, but Wolverine is kind of bumming around now that Krakoa is not there. She's not on an X team, and she finds a mutant who needs help.
Yeah,
and goes and helps that mutant, and of course stumbles across a conspiracy of people trying to use and abuse mutants. There's a lot of kind of allusions to like the sex industry where strippers are sometimes not exactly the most willing participants in their situation. You get some of that in here, which is kind of typical of these female-leaning books.
Yeah, right.
You have to be a little bit smarter to interpret what's happening on the page. But really fun book. A lot of great action. I mean, Erica Schultz is a phenomenal writer.
Yep.
So if you're familiar with her, you know what you're going to get.
Every year that goes by, I regret not getting Laura Kinney's first appearance earlier. Now Laura is like starring in like she's in like the Nyx comic right now. She's popping up in like X-Men stuff.
Her first appearance was Nyx, right?
Title, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only reason that book still gets rebooted every once in a while is because it's tied to her origin.
Yeah, X-23.
Yeah, that book is way too fucking expensive.
For sure.
But it's also one of those like weird titles that like you could see someone opening a short box of books they bought in like the early 2000s, late 90s, and just being like, this is all a bunch of nothing books, and then dumping them off at like a vintage stock.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely one of those books that like people just find in dollar bins from time to time, and it's like an $800 comic in good shape.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm really interested in reading in Marvel Unlimited is Tom Taylor's all new Wolverine.
Oh yeah,
with her and Gabby,
yes.
Honey Badger.
Yeah,
that's one I'm definitely going to go back and read. I have been trying to find. I think it's the first 3 issues are like. Issue 1 is super expensive because it's issue number 1. It's the first issue of her taking over as Wolverine. Yeah. And then issue 2 is the first appearance of Honey Badger. So it's super expensive.
Yep.
But those are books that I've been trying to track down for a
Yep.
while, and not super expensive.
Yep.
Whatever. So
I slabbed my Wolverine one.
Yeah.
Laura Kinney first it got a 9.8 back.
hell yeah.
Sweesh.
Is it the A cover?
Say cover, yeah.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I don't think I have any variants of it. I have the variant where
There are some books that I was just like, this variant's funny, and then it ends up being a key issue or something, and I'm like, God damn it.
yeah. So I bought I don't know which issue it is, but it's an all new Wolverine where it's the spoof on Batman slapping Robin,
Okay,
but
yeah.
it's Deadpool and Laura, and he Deadpool's saying, "Hey, how's Logan?" and she's slapping him, saying, "Logan's dead," because it was when Logan was dead. Anyway,
It sounds like a rad cover.
that's what I bought instead of the first appearance of Honey Badger. So, yeah, that's what I read.
All right.
All really good stuff this week. I didn't read any duds.
Yep. Great week for comics. We've already gone over on time. Thanks for sticking with us this long. If you did, join us over on the Patreon for a little bit of Andy and Mike retrospective on our years in collecting, and we talk a little bit about Marvel Rivals, which Andy's been playing, and any of the stuff that if you want to find us anywhere, it's in the outro. Listen to that.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye. First Issue Club podcast is brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company, the people responsible for our favorite drinks, the Space Camper Cosmic IPA family of beers. Our show is edited and produced by our hosts Mike DeStacy, Greg Lichtag, and Andy Vargas. You can find us on social media at First Issue Club, and you can join the supporters who keep our humble podcast going on our Patreon at patreon.com/firstissueclub.